You said that he is of Latin descent. Now, how could she be both of Latin and Hispanic descent, but you have defined him as only of Latin but not Hispanic descent? You understand what we're both saying here. You're using rhetoric to change reality. The reality is that he was the first Hispanic Supreme Court justice, or if you prefer, the first Latin Supreme Court justice. Would that make you happier?
I prefer Latin since he's from Portugal. And
I see. Now, what is the big deal, by the way, of someone being of Latin or Hispanic descent? Does that make them smarter or morally superior in some way that I'm not aware of?
As a person of Portuguese descent, I don't think it makes me any better than the average person on the street. It doesn't make me.
Well, I'm glad you say that, but according to Charles Schumer, apparently she has a superior morality than people of other descents.
Well, I just came back from the Iberian Peninsula this past weekend, and they have no animosity towards Americans. They think we're exactly equal, nothing like that.
Who cares what they think? What do I care what they think? Why am I listening to you? All I hear is what other people think of America. I'm so sick of this. This started out a few years ago with Bush when he turned into the pinko that he was, saying, we want to know what they're saying on the Arab street. I don't give a damn what they're saying on the Arab street, where women are treated like cattle and people are brutalized. I want them to care what we think of the Arab street. I'd like the people in the Iberian Peninsula to worry about what we Americans think of them. I'm sick of the world going upside down. I'll be right back.
Eloquent in their own way.
Armstrong and Getty. Weekday morning 6 to 10. Talk 910 KNEW.
With this historic vote, the Senate has affirmed that Judge Sotomayor has the intellect, the temperament, the history, the integrity, and the independence of mind to ably serve on our nation's highest court.
Look who's talking. Look who's talking, the intellect and the morality. Here's a man who taught constitutional law who's violating the Constitution at every turn, and he's telling us that she has the intellect to be a Supreme Court justice. Can anyone listening to the Savage Nation right now change my mind by citing one legal finding of Sotomayor that you think is so brilliant that all of the world should know of it? After all, the law is a body of work. After all, we've had Supreme Court justices who were brilliant, both legally and on a literary level. Can you name one thing that Sotomayor wrote that is brilliant, either from the legal perspective or from the literary perspective? Perhaps I'm ignorant. Perhaps because I am not a liberal, I am ignorant. I realize that although I myself have authored 25 books, and although I have 2 master's degrees and a real PhD, I may not be as enlightened as Al Franken, Senator Franken, that is, the horses behind, who actually introduced Sotomayor, which is laughable. It was unbelievable to listen to that one. Now listen to this, just gets posted. After 6 months, more view Obama's presidency as a failure than Bush's did after 6 months. Now here's an interesting thing. I'm reading to you. A rather surprising finding from the newly released CNN poll. Question 3 on the national survey of 1,136 adults, parenthesis, which includes an oversample of African Americans. Wait a minute. Why would CNN include an oversample of African Americans? Well, for one, CNN is a leftist, Leninist operation, and naturally they oversample a group that they think is going to give them the answers that they want to post as reality. But instead it hits them in the face. So even though the CNN sample included an oversample of African Americans, which they skewed in order to bend the results, they came out the other way anyway. 37% said they believe the Obama administration is a failure. At the same time, 6 months into the Bush administration, CNN Gallup USA Today survey, 56% said the Bush administration was a success. Only 32% considered it a failure. So already the American people are on to the fact that this guy is an imposter. He is the imposter. And don't be Obatamized is the main lesson today. Do not be Obatamized by the vermin in the media. Don't let men like Wolf Blitzer, who is the closest thing to a department store dummy who can talk, tell you anything about anything. Don't let any of those half men at NBC, ABC, or CBS, or MSNBC. Don't let any of those pancake, made-up half men tell you anything. And by the way, if you're going to go to a town hall meeting, shout it out like a real American. Don't be afraid of the bagel woman from Brooklyn, Barbara Boxer. Don't be afraid of anything any of these fraudulent criminals say to you. Who the hell do they think they are? Who the hell do these senators think they are to tell the actual people you have no voice in this country? Who the hell do these people think they are to say that illegal aliens have a voice, but you, the voters and the taxpayers, don't? Who the hell do these gangsters think that they're talking to? You stand up and you shout it out, and you tell them to go to hell. You wave the Bibles as many times as you want. You bring crosses in and put them in front of these vampires. You put a cross in front of the vampires, and that's the only way you're going to get what you want. You tell these gangsters to listen to you. This is our country. It does not belong to illegal aliens. It does not belong to the criminals who have hijacked the Senate and the Congress. And let me tell you something, and you write this down. If I was so wrong, and if I was so out of the mainstream, I would not have the third largest radio show in America after 15 years in the business. I would not have 4 New York Times bestsellers in a row. I can guarantee you that I am closer to the mainstream than Sotomayor or Schumer or Boxer. And you can take that to the bank. Don't be Obatomized. Don't accept an Obotomy. This is the Savage Nation. The phone number, of course, you know. The website you don't know, it's michaelsavage.com, where you can see the words Obotomy and Obotomized. We do not know if the hemorrhoid with ears has stolen it yet. Apparently his ears are so fast he can steal phrases from me in real time.
Savage. Don't miss a minute of the Savage Nation. Download the podcast at 910knew.com.
We're supposed to sit here and believe that the appointment of Sotomayor to the Supreme Court is going to change America for the better. Remember the rubbish in the 80s, the year of the woman? Or was it the 90s, when many women entered the Senate for the first time, many of them? We were told that loudmouths from Brooklyn like Boxer, complete imposters like Feinstein from San Francisco, when they became senators, we were told it would be a kinder, gentler U.S. Senate. Has it become a kinder, gentler U.S. Senate since these wonderful, polite, distinguished dignitaries entered the U.S. Senate? So therefore, the American people are not so easily fooled. We have the embarrassment of Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House, first woman Speaker. We were told that was going to be a great thing. Remember? Same rubbish. The beginning of something wonderful, bringing us to the mainstream. Here you have Nancy Pelosi pushing the approval of 3 Gulfstream 550 jets to ferry her and her family around the nation, $65 million apiece. Here is a woman who has treated the United States as a toilet bowl, who treats the American people like serfs, and we're supposed to believe that these liberals care for the people? We're supposed to believe that they really mean all power to the people? They don't mean all power to the people. They meant all power to the left-wing people. They don't want all power to the people by any means. Palm Beach, Florida. Joe, you're on the Savage Nation.
Hey, I just wanted to talk about your beef with the other conservatives on the radio.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think they're false because I listened to them for a long time, and a friend of mine turned me on to you, and I was amazed. I was like, well, I didn't ever hear of them. They never talk about you, and I'm like, this guy blows them away. I totally turned off to all the other guys, and I agree with them about 90% of the time. But you, my friend, are a breath of fresh air, and thank God you're an American citizen, and God bless you, because you make my day.
Thank you for all of the kind words. Are you aware that Obama's friends in the British government have banned me from entering the country, even though I didn't apply to enter? They said that I was as bad as murderers and criminals who are in jail?
Yes, that's around the time I started listening to you about it, like when that all started happening.
And are you aware that false conservatives such as the golfer, the wallbanger, and the hemorrhoid refuse to mention this abrogation of free speech of a fellow talk show host, someone who is their competitor, for sure, but someone who is in the same business as them, certainly? Are you aware of the fact that the hemorrhoid, the golfer, and the wallbanger will not mention this subject?
It's a disgraziata in Italian. They say I turn my back on them. I really do, because you're a real conservative. They talk a good game, but you're for it, and I love you.
Well, we'll see what happens when they're put on a banned list. We'll see who comes to their aid. Thank you for joining the Savage Nation. Phone number 1-800-449-8255. Now I want to talk about the war in Afghanistan. Remember all of the protests against the war in Iraq? No war for oil. The pinkos going into the Congress and the Senate screaming and yelling and throwing pig blood, whatever they did. Where is Code Stinko now that we don't need them? Where have all the good leftists gone? They were never against the war. They were against Bush. Because although he was a pinko, he wasn't red enough for them. Make no mistake about it, he was a pinko. But they didn't want a pinko, they wanted a reddo. Now that they have a reddo, they're silent. Where are they? They're all in the White House. They're working for him. He has taken cop haters from the streets of Oakland and put them in the White House with a monster budget to create the equivalent of the brown shirts, the SA. Huge story. The vermin in the media won't touch it.